What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. Let me just get this one little clicky click here.
I love a good clicky click.
Clicky click. So I'm good. Happy Saturday. You having a good day?
Yeah, I'm having a really great day, although it's like really hot.
It's cold here. It's foggy in San Francisco. Typical. So anyway,
I was texting a buddy and they were just like, it's really cold right now. And I'm just like, I wish.
awesome.
No, but I'm happy that it's hot because I'm going to the beach tomorrow, so I'm excited about that.
Where do you go to the beach?
I just recently went to Black's Beach in San Diego.
Yeah, it's great down there.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a really great time, so I'm going to go back tomorrow with my downstairs neighbor. They're a good time.
Awesome. Great. Cool.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great to see you and chat with you. I feel like it's been a while since we've last like encountered each other or
Yeah, we bump
interacted.
into each other here and there at beautiful experiences. So that's
Do you
great.
remember how we met?
I know we spent time at Healthy Friction together, and I think I contacted you because of your for this podcast, right? I think I initially said like you do amazing work or whatever, and I think that was the outreach, right?
No, we were like, I think I was like masturbating in a pool. And you were like lounging in a chair and I like was taking a break and like um the bro that I was with was on the chair next to you and I went to go sit down and then you like tapped my shoulder.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you were just like, "Hey, I really love, I don't know if it was a podcast or like a blog or something that I wrote."
yeah,
You
totally.
were just like, "I love your," because you're like,
So I
"I just love
fanboyed
your
you
work."
the first time. That's good.
No, it was great. It was fine. And you were just like, "Oh yeah, I like the way your mind works," and I was like really excited that someone
Yeah,
like would listen to it or pay attention to it. So it was
it's
nice.
true.
So that's how we got it.
It's true. I mean, what you're 5 years into this. It's how many episodes have you done? It's a fucking beautiful thing.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really proud of it. I feel like it's continues to grow and it continues to reach new people, which is really exciting. Which I'm sure you're familiar with because you do a lot of the like things in the bait community.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was really cool. So like when I contacted you, I was like, oh, you should definitely be on the pod, and you give me like all the links to the things that you do. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
you're so active.
Yeah,
I don't think I got to know that part of you when we were in Palm
well,
Springs.
it's been evolving, and so we're all of our personas, personal and sexual personas, are always evolving. So that's when I've been able to merge a couple things that I like into this mode. So it's been cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Are you excited for Folsom? Are you going to Folsom this year?
Yeah, I mean, Folsom for me is a lot more like entertaining and hanging out with people than necessarily like the best sex of the year because it's like first of all I get that anyway, and secondly I'm usually like making waffles and cleaning towels and stuff
Yeah,
in Folsom. So anyway,
yeah. No, that's exciting.
yeah,
I never been. I always wanted to go.
we should come up sometime. It's a beautiful expression.
Yeah, I should. I used to visit Berkeley a lot.
Mhm.
Because I had family up there for a while. And I like miss taking like road trips through San Francisco and I'd go to Berkeley and like even Berkeley is so different from San Francisco. It's like its own little world.
Yeah, totally.
So talk to me about all the cool beta things that you're working on right now. I know that there's plenty of things that you're like teaching and you're like doing mentorships and guiding and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so what's that all about? So I guess like there's been this interesting journey for me coming sort of through kink and being in San Francisco for 25 years and moving through all those different personas and experiences around kind of leather scenes and the fisting community, which is another beautiful like group of men who are really focused on pleasuring each other, a lot like baiters. And then more recently,
Mhm.
I sort of didn't really. I mean, I was always was masturbated. But I didn't really know about the bait scene until probably like almost 10 years ago. But it wasn't the earliest days, right? And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this is really cool. And so that's been where I spent more of my time and energy, like socially, like at things like where we've spent time at Healthy Friction and other beautiful events like the Masturbation Convention, where I was back in Pittsburgh, and
Mhm.
then Sausage Fest just wrapped up in Vegas. I didn't get to that one, but I'm into the prior three of those, and that's amazing. So, this beautiful community is
Mhm.
gathering, which we should talk about, right? Like, what is the Bator community online and in person? Because it's a very different thing than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? And that evolution has been super cool. And there's a lot of opportunity in that space of men baiting together, whether online or in person, where there's an ability to really get connected to yourself and to your pleasure. And the stuff that you've been talking about since your first episodes, and that we end up all talking about when we spend enough time in masturbation, is just like this idea about self love and self pleasure and self activation, and the power of being your own pleasure
Ooh,
source, right? And then if you want to share that,
I
how do you
like
want to
that.
share that, and how different that kind of approach is than than always seeking a penetrative partner to approve of you in terms of your sex. And so like we talk about that too, but like that's a really interesting space. And so I've been coaching like rooms of baters either at these events or our beautiful party Gorilla Jacks here in San Francisco. That's once a month, third Sunday of the month. They've given me a room to kind of take over and do my thing, and we get a lot of people in there, and we're up in a circle, and I bring like little candles and laser and porn and smoke machine and all that shit. And you make space for people and verbally encourage them, and they encourage each other and visually encourage each other to come out of the shell and be more yourself. I mean, that's a very, very courageous thing to be like naked in front of other strange men. Much less aroused, much less in pleasure, much less deep in pleasure, much less really having a fucking good time with it. Right. And that's so powerful for people because everybody goes there and can get what they want. They can, if they want touch, there's touch. If they don't want touch, they don't have to have touch. They don't need the approval of a penetrative partner to leave that party and be like, I had a great time. So I love that space. And I love the juicy stuff that men kind of get into and are able to, if you can get into their brains a little bit at those moments, that's very empowering. And I hear lovely things from people about after those sessions about like how I never felt better about my body or my penis or my pleasure. And so that's a cool thing.
That is a really cool thing. I think you're
Yeah.
doing a really amazing work. I would love to like go to one of your sessions. I'm sure that'd be really transformative.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's supposed to be fun and erotic. I think that comes through, and it's all like it's a group effort because we're all contributing in some way. But I think sometimes
Yeah.
I think we receive a lot of stimulation passively through screens, and it can lead to a lot of kind of leaning back in your masturbation as opposed to like really presenting
Mhm.
forward and really connecting with the people that you're with. Because oftentimes the people that we're watching are on a reel, right? But when you're in a live room or in a a camera room, there's an opportunity to really express yourself verbally and with your body and so many men do that so beautifully and so uniquely. I think it's such an interesting perspective on a man is like how he chooses to show his eroticism to you, how he chooses to show his arousal. It's so unique and so beautiful and so hot and so transforms like whether he's like in a particular kind of fitness or an age or a whatever label we sort of think we were into. It's not that. It's that organic expression of erotic energy that is I think is so hot for people and how men can connect across very different lines. The diversity in bait rooms is just amazing to me. It's like so many different men, right? And yet we've all come together and share this one thing. And we all know how to do it and we're great at it. And it's actually the thing that we're the best at. And we're choosing to share with each other. And that's super powerful. And I think I've been to many, many fisting parties all over the world and many, many fuck parties. And those are great. And I love that. But this is a very different energy. And I think it's a beautiful space for men to get into. And then we've got these lovely events like the masturbation convention and Healthy Friction's been at it for a long time and Sausage Fest. And then the weekly or monthly like local parties where guys can do that. And so it's really cool to see that increase. And I think some of these men this is how they want to access sex and it's beautiful. This is their
Mhm.
primary expression of sex and that's fantastic. And it shouldn't be like, yeah, but it's not something else. Well, how do we say to somebody like, yeah, your sex should be something else? That's crazy, right? Um,
That is
so I started
crazy.
going to this amazing retreat center down in Costa Rica that used to be called the Jungle Gayborhood. People kind of know it by that brand, but we just rebranded it as Casa, QASA. It's casa.house. And went to a lot of programs there that are kind of like in this tantra intentional touch kind of world, and
Mhm.
did a bunch of programs there and when was invited to write a program. And so last year I wrote and facilitated a program for about 10 guys that came down for a week called Pleasure as Purpose, which we can talk about like that's about. And so now I'm spending more time working with this beautiful retreat center, developing curriculum. It really all comes from what is the common thing that all of our facilitation and programs come from, which is about lifting shame, lifting repression, being more body conscious, being more sex positive, and being more, fully
Mm.
expressed. And so that affirmation of your highest self is being, when you're in your pleasure. And I think that work is really beautiful. And so I'm doing different high spicy and low spicy different programs around how can men be in their bodies and be in their pleasure and take.
Wait, how spicy do these programs go?
Well, the one that we're doing now, which we've rebranded as Conscious Kink, we did it before, but I've just written a new version of Conscious Kink. We start with like consent and touch and mutual massage, and then the next day move into masturbation and do a group masturbation activity. And the next day is fisting and ass pleasure, and the next day is impact play and flogging and other kinds of BDSM and kink techniques. And then
Well, that's
we
cool.
talk a lot about polyamory and open transparency in relationships and how do you negotiate your pleasure relationships. So we run the whole gamut, and there are guys who come, knowing what's coming, but maybe a lot less familiar with their ass or ass pleasure or fisting or focused masturbation. Like, hang on, slow down. What are you doing? And can you do it in an even more focused way? Some people want to like jump over the masturbation, get to the other stuff. Those are the non-baiters. I sort of make them slow down, and kind of we have to spend a whole day on baiting. And it's interesting to see people who are typically more seeking penetrative play to have to kind of like be in themselves and to be only in a more focused kind of activity that we do. And then we
Hmm.
do use ass pleasure and fisting as means to put yourself into ecstasy, right? And this is about how do you lift shame and lift repression and put yourself into ecstasy, and that ecstasy is a beautiful pursuit. It's an important part of life. It could actually be considered your pleasure. We call this last program pleasure as purpose, right? And I work off of this beautiful text that was written back in the 1980s called The Divine Androgyne, written by this beautiful new age faggot who called himself Purusha. And he talked about like your pleasure is your main purpose, and you generating purpose through your body and putting your body into ecstatic states, which he calls cosmic erotic ecstasy. Is this noble cause, this transformational means by which we can connect into our highest self, our unrepressed self, and even into our spirituality, whatever that means to you, whether that's universe or God or nature or whatever it is. And so framing pleasure as a purpose, and claiming pleasure as a noble cause and something that connects you into your spirituality, it actually is the transformative means of your spirituality. It is not something you do instead of your spirituality, right? And
Hmm.
a lot of men
Hmm.
get caught up in sort of I have my sex life and I don't really nurture my spirituality, or at least they're separate things, and they're not even allowed to touch each other because like spirituality can't have, particularly if it has a more like Judeo-Christian background in you, like it's sex and pleasure are so negatively treated by those traditions, right? So if you can have your
Hmm.
sex and your pleasure be the means by which you're into a present ecstatic state that is your connection to whatever you want to be connected to, at least it's fully presence, at least it's your full embodiment, and potentially even whatever you call your spiritual connection. That's a beautiful frame to work in, and so we do a lot of stuff that's around that approach, and it's quite liberating for people. You can still go back and be kinky and slutty and whatever else you want to be doing, but owning why you seek that pleasure, what that pleasure can actually do for you, is a beautiful practice.
Hmm. I think it's really important work. I feel like I've talked to a lot of people and they understand like like sex work or sex healing is very like transformative in people's lives. Um,
There's some great
which feels
programs
really
out
exciting.
there. If you look at that,
But it,
so
uh I was gonna say, but I think more than just like now, I feel like well, in the beginning when I first started, it was like about the sex, right? Like baiterness and like masturbation. But I think now that I've been doing it for a while, I think what is more impactful to me is building community. And then the sex is just like a bonus to like what we do because I just feel like in the time that I've explored the community and I've been active and have a point of view, I feel like I've made like really good friends. And I feel like that's all encompassing. Like it's like a sexual, like we found each other through sex. Yeah.
but what do you think is the message that you're delivering? Why do we flock back and listen to what's your philosophy on this? Because I love it, so say it.
Well, my philosophy is that like it's like brotherhood to me. Like something that I never like, I don't know, like it's just these particular people. And I'll say people, I don't want to misgender anyone. But like these particular people in this community like understand. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we're just so like neuro in our way of like thinking and acting. It's just like it just feels like home because you can like easily communicate with the people that mean the most to you.
And why do you think that's so unique to baiters versus other queer
Excuse me.
settings or kink scenes or other kinds of gatherings of other men
Mm,
is like our general group here, but like whatever is great. But
because like on it, like to be like, I think for me, it's like intimacy. Like I think it's so sexy when men, um, with regardless of sexual orientation, can be really intimate with each other. I think there's something really beautiful about that. Just like the idea of like, if you want to define masculinity as like hard and rough and like really aggressive, but men have the ability to still tap into like a sweet nurturing side of us, like carrying protector, guide, leader. And so like to be able to like inhabit that duality is really sexy to me as men.
Hmm.
And I think for the most part, that's what we crave. Like, every time I talk to betas, it's just like, I need a bro, I need a bro, I need a bro. Like, it's like more, it's not necessarily the sex because you're gonna have sex by yourself, right? It's more like the companionship.
Hmm. So why is there more intimacy when you're not penetrative, or when you're with somebody who maybe across the room or even across the world, that you can actually get to that level of intimacy that you seek more than the sort of more traditional, like, I need him to fuck me or whatever?
Yeah. Mm. I think it allows you to take like a observational POV of this person.
Hmm.
Like you're not, yeah, like you're outside of yourself looking in, kind of sort of thing, where you're able to like really slow down time,
Yeah.
and like process information rather than just have it be like when you're fucking or you're having sex, it's all body. Like you just want to pleasure your body. That's all you really want to do. But since you don't have the other person with you or you're connected electronically, it's a different kind of like energy that's transmitted because you're not physically touching each other. So it's more mental,
Hmm.
it's more verbal, it's more show offy. It's like more silly, it's stupid. And I think boys in general are just dumb. So like it's fun to get dumb with other dudes and like just inhabit that like the goony dumb space.
Totally. Really good description.
Yeah, it's just fun to be stupid. Like I just love like discovering also too like I love like seeing so many different various styles of gooning and masturbation. Like it runs the gamut. And I just feel like also too like our community is so visual and that we need to see it. We need to like but also to audio.
Hmm.
But I think that's just like our neurodivergence. We're just like picking up on other cues that we normally wouldn't pick up on, or other people typically wouldn't pick up on, or find arousing or interesting or sexy.
It's a lot
And
of the detail.
I think
Yeah,
that's really beautiful.
slow enough
What?
that the detail really matters, because we're not moving
Yeah.
around a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of activity, so what the activity that you're doing is like very precise to understand and to relate to.
Yes.
Understand what
Oh
you're
my
doing
God,
day
you're
after night
so
after night.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, precise. That's a really great word. Because like I'm taking in the whole being. Like my arousal comes from the arch of your foot or
Yeah.
the patch of hair on your lower back. Like these small things that we're going deep inside versus seeing the entire like excuse me, a picture. I just ate like a really big meal before this. So I'm like burping it up. Yeah, but that's like I'm really proud to be in this community because it's just like and also too like I think we're one of the more like sex positive communities. We're one of the more open space communities. Like we're a really safe community. Like you can come in and kind of explore. We won't like tell you to beat it. But also to like non-judgmental, non-shameful. Like I think that's always what we strive for.
Yeah.
And so, I love just like meeting people where they're at. And I think that's a really important like skill that I've learned in my journey.
Yeah.
Like not everyone is as sexual as I am, or maybe they're more advanced than I am, and that's fine. But like just kind of like meeting halfway there.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Well, I
Yeah.
really saw that at the at all these gatherings, but I was most recently at the Bate convention in Pittsburgh, and Jared did a beautiful job arranging that. And that's in a 4-story like gay sauna basically. So and they rent the space out, so it's only the people who were there, and it's several hundred guys who are there for the 3 days. And
Hmm.
I've been in like lots of gay saunas, and like the vibe is so completely different with a full of baiters, and for a private event. But it was so much more like brotherly and get to know you and say hello and share a little time and share some strokes and see you across the room and let's like smiles and hang out on the deck and smoke some weed and stroke together. It was really, really brotherly. It was very fraternal. And it didn't
Hmm.
have that sort of competitive scarcity model that a lot of gay sex spaces have. And I think that's like philosophically a really important thing to always ground into, is like abundance or scarcity, right? And how is a situation set up for that? And I think baiting is beautifully set up for abundance because you're complete. Your complete experience. You can have a complete experience and not have anybody else involved, and you can layer and add that.
Hmm.
Right, that pleasure is purpose. That you are a fully contained, erotic beast, and you can be that by yourself. You can be a beastly baiter, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
dude. That's awesome.
And then other men and other people in the situation can amplify that and amplify it. So it's a different kind of communication because we're doing
Yeah.
it from abundance, right? I don't think you can go to a bait party and be like, I didn't get to bait with anybody, because that's not you. If you wanted to bait, you were able to bait, right? And people go to penetrative play parties and feel like either I didn't get, or I wanted that one, didn't get that one, or I wanted 10, I only got 8, like whatever. I mean, there's some kind of like there's a more competitive nature, I think, in within there's when there was scarcity, there's competition. But all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like, I want to push you out of the way so I can go get him and take him in the corner and do that thing with him, so that, and block you from. So we're always sort of like working off of each other in these spaces. And there's funness to that. There's flirtation and there's like the pursuit, and like that's hot too. But it's also nice to have these sexual spaces also be more welcoming and more generative and more in abundance, right? And dating is just like more dicks and more pleasure and more fun, right? And nobody is like pushed out of the way, right? In general, so I think
Yeah, you're
it's a really
right.
great space to be in.
That's funny. Everything you say, I agree with. Also, too, brings up this thing that I learned when I was like first, like I hadn't been to any kind of in-person bait party because I was just really nervous about going and showing up and just being myself. And I was just like, oh, well, what if I don't like anybody there? Like, what if it's like a total bust? Mhm. And my friend was like, as a baiter, no matter where you go, you always have sex with yourself. So
Yeah.
like the goal is to not, try to, that's just not who we are. And I was like, oh yeah, like it made sense. And so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
And it's beautiful to see men who, over the course of a day or a weekend or multiple experiences, like, or over
Yeah.
the years, I've seen a lot of guys. So, you and I know a lot of people, right? We've had beautiful times with a lot of people online and in person, and you see these people evolve over time, right? Over years and
Yeah,
years,
it's a small
and they
community.
grow into themselves. And I think the direction is almost universally toward more relaxed, more open, more happy, more self-loving, more willing to share, more generous, less worried, less anxious, more pleasure, more
That's
public. I mean,
that is so
I'm
true.
sure people have like negative experience, but I think that's the general direction in this kind of like pleasure work. And that's what
Yeah.
we're really doing, is like we are choosing to focus a lot of our time and attention on our pleasure. Right. It's a
Mhm,
very contrary
mhm,
concept to
mhm,
most of how
mhm.
society operates. But if you start from there, both in how you do your sex, that has to include masturbation, not all the time, and not even as your primary exclusive, although for many of us it is. But at least, like,
Yeah.
about generating pleasure here. How do I choose to generate pleasure with myself, for myself, with others, and myself? And then how do I create relationships that are based on pleasure? And are not based
Mhm.
on heteronormative standards, or how I think I'm supposed to be in a relationship with people, or the requirement of domesticity, or the requirement of permanent relationship, or the requirement of to death do us part, or you complete me, or other sort of like overly romantic bullshit that is
Oh,
not how necessarily queer men want to organize themselves in relationship. We can
true.
talk about that more if you want.
I'm I'm using my cum rag to get off the spit. So it's hot in
There's
here.
more on there now, though.
I'm baked. Yeah. Wait, you brought up a really good point. You like triggered something, and then I forgot what I was gonna say. I forgot.
Well,
It was,
what I'm talking about is in relationships, right? Is that I think
yeah.
even though we know we're not in hetero relationships, all
That's
that
what
is
it
around
is.
us are heteronormative and monogamy normed models. And so it's
Yes.
very, if you turn on any TV show, any movie, any media, obviously all the straight world, your siblings and so on and so whatever, you end up with, like, this is the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to, date a bunch until the one, and then the one becomes the choice, and that is a permanent choice until death do us part. And you have to be married and live together. And I mean, some men have children, some men don't have children. It's fine, but like that
Yeah.
we must find the one relationship until death do us part. I think a relationship that is lifelong is one where you were together for a long time until one of you dies, right? Not something
Yeah.
you set up like 40 years in advance and say, like, we're doing this until the very end. And so, most queer men have multiple relationships over the course of time, and these are friendships, or what I like to call loverships. And
Mhm,
sometimes they're boyfriends
mhm.
and sometimes they're husbands. But I really want to encourage people to make space for like this lovership model, which, because boyfriend or husband has a heteronormative tradition, right? It is a binary. Are we boyfriends or not, right? And if you're not a polyamory person, then a boyfriend is your one boyfriend and everybody else is not your boyfriend. So all of a sudden we're
Yeah.
in this like binary of like, you must be with one or you're not with one. I'm single or I'm with one, right?
Yeah.
And whatever model works for you is fine. But I think there's not enough exploration within queer and straight people about what is the actual relationship model that I want. What am I basing it on?
Mhm.
What am I looking for? What am I trying to fill here? Right. And if you go back to this idea of like, I'm trying to fill pleasure, then how you choose relationships and what those relationships deliver to you will look quite different than I'm looking for a domestic partner for the rest of my life. Those are different things. Obviously, you want pleasure in that too, but many of those relationships don't have pleasure or the domesticity. or the long-term nature of that ends up killing the pleasure. And then it becomes like this sort of like, I don't live with this person, business relationship, don't have sex anymore. And I don't think that's what they're looking for as an ideal relationship, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm encouraging like starting with someone you have a connection with and building that connection and then negotiating a lovership about like how do we want to be in relationship together? How do you and I want to spend time together? How often? How often do you want to talk on the phone or text or have FaceTime? And how often will I see you? Or if you live in town, like how many nights a week? Or what activities do we do? Or we mostly play? Do we also go to the movies? Do we also go to the opera? Like, what do you want to do? I'm like, negotiate the commonality where there is this overlap, right? And that person's not going to be all things and all interests and all styles. I mean, how could they be? It's such a crazy thing to say, like, you're the one person who must satisfy me sexually for the rest of my life. What a fucking pressure that is, right? And so in loverships, you negotiate what works for the two people. And obviously, then you bring in radical transparency and ethical non monogamy and say, I want also will have several other important relationships like the one you and I are having, but with other men. And other
Mm-hmm.
people, and those will have different kinds of sexual and social dynamics. And I would like you to meet that person and know that person, and know that person is a lovely person I choose to spend time with, like I choose to spend time with you. And that's my chosen family. And sometimes those relationships last for short times, and many of them last for a very long time. I've had these kinds of polyamorous relationships that have gone on for 10 or 15 years, right? And they've had other relationships, and I've had other relationships at the same time, and they all know each other. And sometimes they date, and that isn't always a good thing. Sometimes it is,
Mm-hmm.
and know each other. But that I think even though we're saying we're not doing straight relationship, I mean, even if we're not, even if we're saying we're getting like married in our gay way, there's so much heteronormativity built into that model that at least people should really think very carefully about what are they negotiating in and out, right? Do you really want to have monogamy? Do you want to have openness? Do you want to have, what kind of openness do you want to have? Is there an ability for there to be other relationships either on the same level or a secondary relationship and all? And I don't think people really negotiate that stuff very well when they go in. And starting from a place of I know what I want, I know how to pleasure myself, and I'm complete. That's like where the masturbators are already so far ahead of the game. I'm
Mm-hmm.
choosing to bring you into relationship with me because you bring additional pleasure to my life that I don't have without you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's optional, but I choose it, and I choose to elevate it based on our mutual availability and interest to elevate. And then I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
have other kinds of also similarly supportive, beautiful, open, transparent relationships with other people. Together, that gives me this beautiful mix of pleasure and relationships and diversity and interest and things like that, and gives you that same space as well. And that's a very like open and honest place to be. And if you end up wanting to be with just that one person mutually, like awesome, that's great. But understanding polyamory, understanding ethical non-monogamy, understanding openness and transparency, and then negotiating it down into just you and me for the rest of the time, that's cool. That's fine. If that's where you guys land, beautiful. But to start from that one model, and it's even harder for straight people who don't even have the ability to negotiate those relationships as easily. There's so much family pressure and institutional pressure
Mm-hmm.
to not be non-traditional, right? I know straight folks who are, poly or E&M people, ethical non-monogamy people, and they kind of have to hide it, right? They have to sometimes come out to their families about being poly, or my husband and I have a girlfriend, or whatever it is, right? And
Yeah.
we have more ability to create this space and define it, and yet we still typically pick very traditional models. And if you're in a boyfriend relationship and cheating on your boyfriend because you haven't told him that you want to have different sex different ways with other people, and he's cheating on you, I'm like, this is what our parents did so badly, right? Why are we repeating this pattern of building relationships that are not based on what we actually want, that are not based on the pleasure that we're actually seeking, and are sort of like, I must be domestic, I must be, in one couple, I must, do this for the rest of my life. If that's what you want, that's great. But there are a lot of people that's not actually the model that they want. And so, I in this work, we see that in San Francisco a lot. We see it in New York and LA a bit. It's a little harder to find polyculture in other places, but it's there, or you can just create it yourself by practicing these kinds of ideas
Mm-hmm.
of like knowing what you want, asking for what you want, crowding in relationships that serve you, being really transparent about what they are and what they aren't and what you want them to be, and then letting them live in harmony together. And you can be in so much higher level of integrity at that point, and able to enjoy the relationships and not be packaging and compartmentalizing and trying to figure out like, oh, I'm at the gym, but I'm actually over at his house or whatever. Right? It's just I really encourage people to think about that more honest and direct sense about how do you want to crowd in relationships into your life and have them be based on pleasure and integrity. There's my relationship piece.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good advice, and I think people should listen to that and apply it in some capacity to their lives. I agree. I feel like it's open. I feel like also too, like that's why I was like, that's what the point that was brought up, that as baiters we're like more open to like different types of relationships and like how we build those things together. I think ultimately for me, when I go into the baiter space, what I'm looking for is just bromance. Like this idea of like loving this other male, sharing the same kind of feelings or the like characteristics or traits, as men who identify as men. So it's nice to just have that desire met in a way that you wouldn't get um like outside of the community.
And
Because I feel
how do
because
you
I
negotiate relationships within that then? Are those like one-off experiences for someone you meet, you know, and then just a one-time experience, not just as a one-time experience, or how do you negotiate relationships based on that?
no, it's not. I feel like when I go into this scene, like I really want to get to know new people, then meet new baiters, and people know who people are curious to know what I do, and so I tell them, and they're always asking questions, and I provide information on based on that. But yeah, like I just feel like like I said before, like I feel like I do, or I'm mindful of meeting people where they're at in wherever capacity or journey they sh they find themselves in. I don't know, just curious by nature. You just lean in, ask a lot of questions, and you're just like, oh, that's cool. Like you're just constantly be like positive and supportive of your bro.
Right.
Like this is like another male. This is your brother. Like he's processing information differently. Like there's like so much shame that he's undoing, or he's seeking help. That's why he's reaching out to you. Like that's how I always envision it. Um, and so like I'm here to be like, yeah, like what you're doing is cool. Like who you are is completely fine and valid, and like
Yep. And that comes through, you know, that's why we listen to you because you encourage that. But let me extend that into like how do you negotiate longer term relationships based on that? How does bro bro or whatever become like boyfriend? Is that mutually exclusive? Is that a path to one? Is that not even desired?
I think
How do
it's
you
just
build
like,
deeper relationship when you start from there, which is a beautiful, intimate place to start?
yeah, no, I feel like I just kind of I cross that bridge when I get there, because I just feel like in my own sexual like identity evolution, like I'm constantly just changing, like sometimes I do want a boyfriend, and then I'm like, oh, monogamy is really interesting. Like how can I make that sexy and new? Or like I've never done polyamory, so like let's try that. And so I think I'm constantly just challenging myself. Um, so I think I'm open, and then I just let my baiter senses like guide me. Like if this individual is offering something that other individuals don't, I'm really curious to explore that. And if that leads to something else, that's great. It's like Alice in Wonderland going through like small doors and shit, and, like drinking potions. It's like a fun, it's an adventure.
Totally.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
cool. I don't know. And
And
also too, like I'm transparent. I talk about it here, but I also talk about it with them directly to say like, hey, this is where I'm at in my life.
yeah.
This is what my needs are. This is what my boundaries are. This is what I'm not gonna do. Like I'm very now in my life at this age, like I feel like I'm very like communicative in that.
So, and that's the point I was making is this like transparency about what you want, not what you
Hmm.
think you're supposed to be offering or you think you're supposed to be getting. And it's
Yeah.
easy. That's a very easy thing to like say, but that really is that I think a lot of that comes from like just age and experience. So for sure, you know more in
Yes.
your 40s than you do in your teens or whatever. But
Totally.
I do think that if you're believe you have to sacrifice what you think you want for a model that is forced on you, then you're going to take a lot longer to get to the transparency what you actually want. And I
Hmm.
love seeing guys who are younger and more confident in their bait and their sexuality and able to like express that because it's great to get that to that earlier. It's a better skill to have earlier on to
Hmm.
understand what you want at a particular moment and be comfortable enough to ask for that. And that's a
Yeah.
very easy thing to say and a very hard thing to get to, and you get better at it over time. But the sooner you can do that and say, "Look, man, this how I want my life to live," because when you do that, as you do, like that, if you put that practice out there, you actually educate a lot of people because they don't have those open conversations necessarily. Like that's even I didn't know we were allowed to have this conversation. So wow, thank you for opening my mind to the possibility of a like beautifully negotiated friendship, lovership relationship. That's cool. It
Yeah.
challenges the other person to respond back and be like, well, what do you want out of your pleasure? I mean, it's obviously this is a two-way street. And so it causes inquiry and reflection
Mm-hmm.
on what you actually want. And that's a beautiful conversation that people
Mm-hmm.
don't have when they just assume like, are we boyfriends or not, right? Are we monogamous or not, right? All these like binaries that are so artificial, right? And so the more we're able to do that, and when you put that, we put the word out and say like, this is the world I want to create. This is how I want to live in, like my sex and my pleasure and my art, my creativity and my food and my travel and whatever. The people who are compatible crowd in, and the ones who are not compatible fade away. And all of a sudden, you have the people who are philosophically aligned with how you want to operate. And if you put out there that like pleasure and sex positivity and nudity and queer bonding or whatever are really important things to me and are a core to my sexual and social life, which they are for me, and I think they probably are for you too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, you have like beautiful queer men around who want to be in that with you as well. And
Yeah.
you are isolating more and more from the traditional model. I mean, I think, but that's
Yeah.
okay because we have our places and our people, and there's always somebody online. There's always an event coming up, and there's always people in town, and it's just a more select people that you're choosing to build, chosen family with, but ones who really understand what you're talking about and are seeking that
Yeah.
as well. And there's a lot more out there than you think, even in like outside of the big cities.
Mm-hmm. I think that's also why I really enjoy the beta community because they don't live in the binary.
Right,
Like we're just so much more advanced. Because like we can explore, we can play, and that like really that's part of like the turn on.
right.
Um,
So I wanted to come back to what you said about gooning.
yeah.
So let's talk about gooning for a second. Yeah.
Okay, I love Goonie. Let's talk about it.
Well, it's gotten such a thing now. It's amazing.
Yeah, I
um,
think it's great. I think the
so
culture is like really picking up. It's fun.
so I like to talk about it in terms of like the checking in versus the checking out,
Hmm.
right? And like, so here's the question: like, where do you go when you're in a goon state? Like, where are you?
I am in the alternate Goon universe. It's like just full pleasure. It's just like full whatever you think your sexual spirit is inhabited, it's like tenfold. It's like you can make it be what you want to be. It's your space. That's why I call it like the Bate
Are
Escape because
you
you're,
worried about like your bills or Trump or other shit like that when you're in that space?
absolutely not. No,
So
like
like,
when I'm in my
right?
goon and bait space, like it's all just pleasure. Like it's all just penis. Like it's all just good things. It's fucking rainbows and gumdrops and chocolate and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
things that make me feel really special. And like
beautiful. Totally.
my
It's presence.
friends.
It's presence, right? It's right
Yes,
here. It's right
it's
now.
presence
It's
to
it's
your
embodied. It's embodied
penis.
presence, right?
Yes. And I have a hard time being embodied because I'm really anxiety driven, and so like I
Sure,
tend to live in my head a lot, and
for sure.
so it's nice to like have like a bro there to like suck on your foot or like or jack you off because then it's touch, it grounds you, so that's really nice.
Yeah, totally. So I talk sometimes about like ecstasy, right? This ecstatic state. And
Hmm.
I love that Gooning has a silly name and has a silly incarnation, but it also,
Yeah,
I think, gets a little bit minimized for its value beyond that, right?
sure,
And
yeah, that's
so,
fair.
like,
Hmm.
let's call Gooning ecstasy for a second. I don't mean the drug, I mean like the ecstatic state. And there's a little paper I did on my link tree, but like I wanted to look at like religion in ecstatic states and sex in ecstatic states and what's happening in these two very different traditions where people end up in this like goon state, right? And there's all kinds of religious practices around the world that about how do you get into this like ecstatic state, and it's considered to be like this very high practice within organized religion when you can get yourself into this like ecstatic state, and then we
Hmm.
have our practice of that, which is like edging and gooning. And then this beautiful text I use, Divine Androgyne, also uses fisting, and is that way to get into an ecstatic, extended goon state and edge state through fisting, which is
Yeah,
actually very much can. And so
yeah,
what's happening in the body, right? There's a physiological change happening in the body when we put ourselves through stimulation, physical, mental, sound, drugs in some cases, psychedelics, whatever, into these spaces. You don't need psychedelics because you can create a psychedelic neuroplastic effect from putting yourself into ecstasy, right?
totally.
And so the commonalities of religious ecstasy and sexual ecstasy and what's happening in the brain and the body and what's firing and the default mode network shut down and all these things that create this neuroplastic state, which is what those traditions are both seeking, right? And that's incredible presence, incredible awareness, incredible ego dissolution, all these things that if in a psychedelic context are considered to be like, oh, you're a psychonaut, and what a very like deep practice you have in your psychedelic work, and that's really like deep and serious. And religious people who are like deeply into their orthodoxy are able to get there. But the sex piece, because it's sex, gets like, oh, that's stupid, right? That's just
Hmm.
being an idiot. Right. And being an idiot and the silliness is great. I'm not shaming that at all. I'm saying, but there's also this check in to your ecstatic presence,
Yeah.
right? And some of the work that we do in Costa Rica that I do lead is on imagining your highest self. So if you just take a second and try to think about like what is my most body conscious, my most shame free, without any limiting thoughts, fully expressed, like queer self. Like, what is that? Like, how does that feel in my body to be completely fuck you to anybody else, to their opinions, to parents, religion, your own story about yourself, your own silly stories, beastly about your body, like all these things, like let it fucking go and stand fully in your fully expressed self, right? And
Hmm.
that call that like your higher self, right? And this ability to like to connect to that, to shed all that, and we can do that primarily and in particular most easily when we're in these ecstatic states. And so
Hmm.
Purusha, the author of this book, talks about like the closest distance between you and God is when you're in pleasure, right? When you're in ecstasy, you are focused, you are connected, all the things that you just said. And if you want that to be a channel into your spirituality, it can be, right? If you want that to be, about your higher self and being fully expressed and shedding all that shit, it can be. If you want to just be like, I turn off and I just like look at beautiful dicks, like that's fine too. But I would love to create a little more space for us to look at gooning as an intentional ecstatic practice,
Hmm.
that has a lot of ability to tie into other things we believe about ourselves and our life and our spirituality, our place in the universe and our body and our power, right? I coach guys in rooms like, when you're like fully stiff and really on your edge, like that's how you should be walking into a meeting and asking for a raise. That kind of energy, that like warrior powered up, like fully male, like that is a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. And we do that
Yeah.
so often in masturbation, which is beautiful. It's such a healthy practice, this self-loving, self-touch, this restorative practice that we do every day, right? But I think we can sometimes shame it because we spend a lot of time on it, and I should be attending to other parts of my life when I'm actually masturbating. But if the masturbation can be part of a broader practice around your spirituality and your emotional health and your physical health, and understand that this is actually driving these things, it has more utility and a lot less opportunity to shame it for being like, I'm just wasting my time just like playing with myself, right? It is that, but it's also much more than that. And a lot of us do that activation into a higher purpose for our pleasure without really intentionally understanding it, or spending the time to sort of journal about it or think about it or put it into some context, because it just feels sort of like porn and the sexual activity and the zone out part. And that's great because there's a lot of value in being present. It's very hard to get present. People go to silent retreats and stuff and sit and try to like be present, be present, be present. If you can be present in your masturbation, then that's the technique that works for you. But it's also a way to connect to this like much bigger sense of self and purpose and universe and place in the world, if we let it be. And so I kind of invite like checking into stuff when you're in edge, not only checking out, not only letting it be a
Hmm.
place where you do this dissolution into nothingness, which is great, but it can also be a really empowering practice and connect you to other parts of your life.
I agree.
I agree.
No, it's true. I feel let's see, there was like 2 points that came up to me when we were talking. I think like the misunderstanding or the misconception with gooning like in the physical form is that it just looks cringe or stupid and that it is dumb. But I think the people that don't understand it are missing the point that there's ecstasy in the silly. That's the point. That's where we're getting the ecstasy in the stupid, in the cringe, in the goon. That's where it feels the most liberating
Sure.
and the most pleasurable. And I just feel like masturbation or just sex in general is like really pleasurable. And I feel like in pleasure you find healing. And I find pleasure in a lot of different things, like laughter and hugs and working out. And that's healing to me. It heals your soul. And on a micro molecular level is healing your body. If you get those things. And then I forgot the other thing that brought up my mind.
And those are all embodied practices, right? And
Yeah, it was it all. Yeah, it is. You're right. When you say practice, that's exactly what it is. Because I just feel like like just for so long I wasn't attuned to that. Like, as a man, I was just programmed to like go hard, go big, and just go fast. And not slow down, not tap in, not ask questions of yourself and not be introspective because those things or qualities are seen as like other. Um, so it's been quite like an adventure to just tap more into myself and invite others into that space and just like explore it um in their energy. Because I feel like everyone brings something new to the table.
Mhm.
And that's what's interesting to me. Like, that's why I know like I'm more polyamorous, more open, because I'm just like, it's fascinating to me to be in the presence of someone else's sexual energy and what we can do in that space together.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a beautiful place to hang out. Right. And
Yeah.
I
I
love that,
think
like,
just
kick
sex
back
is just
together in
fun.
pleasure. Like, let's get our bodies into pleasure and hang out together.
Hmm.
And I think that's a different vibe than a penetrative, like, I'm supposed to fuck you until I come, or you're supposed to, like, there's sort of like a destination in penetrative play that, like, is not as relevant in bait play. Um,
Totally.
and really encourage people to, like, be expressive about it. Again, I said it earlier on, but I think because we consume so much screen time, there is a lot of receiving content. There's a lot of taking in. And
Yeah.
I love that baiters choose to put a camera on, because you can watch all the porn in the world you want without turning your camera on. And people choose to put their camera on. So what is that? Right? That's being seen. It's exhibitionism, but fine. But what is that? It's about being seen, not only and being seen in arousal and being seen erect and in your pleasure and how you practice your pleasure. It's the most intimate thing you could possibly. We show our buttholes. I mean, it's like, seriously, like, it's so hot, right? And
It's so high.
that is, yeah, that isn't in a big bait party, like 100 guys in a room, and I'm like coaching them, and guys are like kicking their legs up and there's buttholes everywhere. It's like, it's fucking beautiful, man. It's so honest and it's so raw. And it is performative, but it's also performative of you and for you, right? And then
Yeah.
for the other men as well. And that's a really powerful practice to be in. And I love
Hell yeah.
being able to get together like that.
Me too. There's something just really special about just like male energy. Like it's like all encompassing. It's everything. It's the way you smell. It's the way you look. It's the hair on your body. It's your rigid cock. Like it's just like it's so male in that space. And you could just be like uninhibitedly and profoundly proud of being male. Whereas I think when you're not in that space, not that I'm having to like tiptoe or walk on eggshells in my everyday life, but I feel like I'm much more consciously aware of the things that I do in my mannerisms, and then maybe I'm just like too self-aware, but like I don't know. As a male, like I'm seen in like you're seen in a certain way, and I'm mindful of that. I understand that. I understand the privilege that comes with that, and so I often have to like check myself versus when I'm in the beta space, like I'm not checking anything. I'm just being uninhibitedly man.
Right.
Yeah, and then people are just like, "Oh, we get it. He's just being a dude." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I'm here."
And so, like, the question is that an alternative space you put yourself in when you're able to, either at home, online, or when you can get to public spaces? Or is that an approach you actually use across, like, your life in general? Right. This is about, again,
I use it.
about generating pleasure and having relationships be based around, like, how do they bring you pleasure, not how do they conform to something I think I'm supposed to be doing, or my financial needs, or my, like, other, domestic desires. Like, what are we going after here? You're going after pleasure
Mhm.
and connection, and relationships should be easy, and they should be
Yeah.
supportive, and they should have commonality
Yes.
and consistency, and, like, and if they don't, then they should be, ideally gently let go. Right.
Yeah.
But, like, men who are baiters and in relationships where they can't be open with their partner about this practice. I respect anybody's need to negotiate the relationship as they want to, but
That's always like a
there's
bummer though.
there's so much. It bums me because there's a self shaming there, and there's a hiding, right?
Yeah.
And this practice is about the opposite of that. This practice is about, like, showing. Uh,
Yeah.
and if you have spaces where you can go be your proud, open, queer self and sexually active, and then you have to go and hide it and put it in back in the closet somewhere, other at home or out in your life, like, that's self-limiting. And this lifting shame, lifting repression is about lifting limitation. And we put ourselves
Yeah.
in relationships with people where we're not able to be our complete selves. I don't think these relationships work out in the long run, because you're not in full compatibility, and it's was not negotiated with where you are now.
Yeah.
But I mean, have you ever had a relationship where you like your baiting was or was not core to the connection, or where there was that was a conversational problem?
Mm, no, not lately, because I feel like the people that I do date or the
You
people
can
that I
start from
do,
there.
yeah, we're pretty much baiters.
Yeah.
Although I'm like dating this new person and they're not a baiter, but
Okay.
I'm like slowly like I'm just like being myself with him. Like
Yeah.
he'll text me like, "What am I doing?" And I'm just like, "I'm masturbating." He's like, "Haha," and I'm like, "No, really, I am." And I'll send him a video, like just to make him like understand that it's really who I am. It's my lifestyle. It's not like a joke to me, or it's not like something that's like
Yeah.
makes anyone less than. It's just like who I am as I may practice. I mean, we haven't had that big of a conversation about it, but he, you know, he knows I'm solosexual. Um, and I'm like training him on how to goon.
There you go.
Like he
Groom,
goons, he
groom the
just
gooner.
yeah, like he goons and he just didn't know what it was. And I was like, you know when you like stick out your tongue, that's your gooning, bro. And he's like, oh, okay. So it's fun. It's fun to like really inhabit right now in my age in my life this like big bro role.
Yep.
And it's nice to talk to you because you're bait dad.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm like big bro. So like it's like this lineage, right? It's like this
Yeah.
hierarchy of like teaching young little bros and
And
like
has
young men and
gone
like
since the beginning of time, right? I mean,
yeah, to like build
those
each
themes
other
of
like
like generations around a fire, or I think like intergenerational talk and concepts are really strong in our community because it is about like passing along and being in chosen family. And we learned
mhm,
to be sexual when we were in a family setting, in a home setting. Hopefully, people were in a safe home setting, and but not in most of us in a sex positive space, right? I
yeah.
mean, that like men living together, open doors, nude, masturbating together is a really strong pull for a lot of people because they didn't have that. They wanted that bonding. I don't understand how like uh dads can raise sons and not have them be like deeply skilled on their dicks. Like what are you teaching them other if you're not teaching them their pleasure and their bodies and how to activate and how to use like I mean, but there's like legal stuff. I'm not trying to like step on that thing. I'm just saying like it should be part of like teaching people how when they're ready and with consent, like how to activate and use their bodies. And how many of us are like through our masturbation are trying to unwind all that shame that we were piled upon about the fact we touch our dicks all the time as kids, or whatever we did as kids, or what our needs were as teenagers or young adults. And so those are very, very like unhealed places for a lot of people. And I think we in masturbation, we go to that a lot. And we find these intergenerational connections where we can teach each other, right? There's this concept in gay spirituality around like the blessing of the father, right? And even if you had a great dad, like he was not probably your great gay dad. He didn't teach you all the gay stuff, and if you did, then lucky you. But that's probably not the case. And so we seek out authority figures and dads and people who have information and knowledge and help us get access to this knowledge and this ability, these experiences, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm in a phase of life where I have relationship with a lot of younger men where that's part of that transfer of knowledge, and also the knowledge goes back up as well. I mean, there's a lot of things there's a lot of shit that people in our 40s and 50s were raised on that are not relevant today. And so there's actually a
Mhm.
ability to be more unrepressed and more shame free from younger people in many cases than from older folks or older guys, because they had a different kind of like shame journey coming up, right? And so we can heal each other in that way. We can see each other in that way. We can affirm each other in our bodies and our sex and our erections and our pleasure. And that's a very beautiful bonding. And I think that's gone on. That's always gone on. And we're lucky enough to live in an age where technology lets us do it quite easily and quite frequently and globally. And that's amazing. Like, I wish I had like the bio of all the guys who were like in a Zoom room or something and be like, where do you live? Where do you work? How much money do you make? Like all these things are so completely irrelevant, right? It's so irrelevant
Yeah,
because we don't need any of that. I mean, I'm saying that
right.
sarcastically, like I don't need any of that stuff because what we're doing is like the thing that's in common.
Hmm.
And the racial, age, national, language, body type, all those differences that we label ourselves with, like, are so irrelevant. It just becomes this like beautiful expression of diversity. And on these bait gatherings are very much that too. I wish we had more men of color there, but there's a beautiful diversity there and can always be more. But like, it's so great to see this like all these different like labels that we have on ourselves are adding to the mix here, and not a reason to not be included, hopefully. And I hopefully people feel that way in those spaces. I think Bate spaces are very welcoming. I mean, you always have like the one-off experiences that aren't ideal, but like I think in general, people can walk in and kind of be themselves.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's what it.
Everyone should be able to be themselves. Um, what was I thinking about? I think like to go back to like the whole like older male, younger male relationship dynamic, I think what it is like a healing space to get things that a person wouldn't have not normally gotten from their own father.
Yeah.
And so like you have people in the community who are of age, of a certain age, that you can like ask for like guidance on all kinds of things. Like they can teach you how to like be softer or like, just practical things like how to get insurance for something, like just like knowledge that you can pass down. But I think I think more than anything, like what really arouses me or makes me fascinated about that dynamic is like being able to like comfort like a younger male in a way that they're seeking to be comfort. And you can only really know that by like asking questions and getting curious and like building that relationship in that like safe space enough to be like, hey, the thing that you want is totally valid and you can ask for it now and I'm willing to like give that thing to you, whatever it is. And I think that's what's most special about like my relationship with younger guys. Like just like always they just want to feel safe. They want to feel seen and they want to be empowered
See.
as like
Yeah.
male. Yeah. And like to be validated with this like sexual practice that often is mistaken as other when it's completely valid in a sexual space.
Yeah. And younger guys have grown up with so much porn in their hands since they were like 10 years old, like that first smartphone appeared, right? It's just like,
For
you
sure.
masturbate holding a phone or looking at a screen is there's a big like difference about you. Your very natural state
Both.
is like smartphone based, right? I mean, cool.
Both
But
at the same time.
right, but that it's so much information, it's not organized and it's not thoughtfully presented to you and it's not given to you in terms of like your individual power. It's just all
Mhm.
these like acts, right? And so through this mentorship and these mutually beneficial relationships, we can heal each other and give older men a space to parent. I choose not to parent.
Mhm.
I parent a beautiful dog, and I love a parenting energy or a mentor energy, but I chose to not have children. And so like there's something in life about wanting to sort of pass on the knowledge and the wisdom that you have and see someone come along and evolve with your support. That's beautiful. And to be supported at
Yeah.
the other side of that is a lovely thing. If someone take an interest and show you, and you don't learn how to do all this stuff from porn. That's why I'm talking about these other themes about like what
Yeah.
else is available in addition to what you see in porn, which is great. And what else you can do with your goon beyond what we see mostly in porn, which is also great.
Yeah.
But there are other places we can go with that, and those are things you have to learn through intentional connection,
Mhm.
and through spaces like bait gatherings or retreats or other kinds of spaces where men are slowing down and talking and sharing and having these conversations about their sexuality and their sexual practices and their pleasure in their bodies. When I host these events in Costa Rica, like these are conversations people don't normally have. We all sit around and talk about shit all the time with our friends. We don't necessarily get into like, how is your sex doing, and are you in your pleasure, and all of your relationships aligned around pleasure. I mean, launch that one at brunch next time, right?
Yeah. No, it's true.
And so these are very places for us to be very thoughtful in these relationships where we can really explore and understand like what's going on and what are we healing and how are we getting rid of our own stories. Many of us are hung up in a lot of stories. We all are hung up in our own stories, and having a supportive person to like be yourself with, or to admit that story, or to turn it into a taboo and turn it into like a really hot scene and like work that shit out. Like
Yeah,
a lot of what we do in kink is
it's like
amplifying
healing.
something to work on it, right? Like
Oh yeah.
we don't flog someone just to like beat the shit out of them, right? The flogging, you ever been flogged?
No. Well, no.
Okay, so like when done with like mutual consent and intention, like flogging is
Sure.
like getting into an ecstatic state. It's the same thing. If I
Yeah.
know by talking to you ahead of time, like what are you trying to get at? What is it that is the thing you want to be screaming at the highest point of that scene, and understand that and how to trigger you and how to get you to not only through the flogging and through the physical in the endorphin run in the I mean it's pain, but it's not it's not like it's a particular kind of pain that's very elevating, right? When you're in that
Hmm.
elevated state, you're in ecstatic state, you're in ecstasy. Well, what do you want to be working on when you're there? I want to scream out, I'm a beautiful faggot, or I love my body, or like I love to suck dick, or like whatever it is, right? That you're really doing that transformational work. And that's easier
Hmm.
to do when you're in ecstasy. whether that's coming through masturbation or flogging or fisting or non-sexual practices can do that too. That's really intense like work. And like in terms of the beauty and the value of that, there's a lot going on there. And that's all the same up and down that we do, for the more like pleasured experience and that restorative check out. I mean, bathing's kind of like sucking your thumb, right? It's just like I want to like be by myself for a few minutes. I want to just like feel
Yeah,
good
it's
for a little while.
comforting
Yeah, of course. And that should be, and it's beautiful and it should be loved for that practice.
for
And it's
sure.
also this gateway into understanding yourself and how you want to build your world and how you relate to pleasure. And if you wanted to, like into your spirituality and your place in the universe. And that's super powerful. How would it not be? It's our sexuality, but I think it gets reduced too much into just the porn version or just the dumbed out version, or that it doesn't actually relate to all that you are, how you elevate in the world and how you connect in the world.
Well said. Hey, thanks for joining me on the Bate Escape today. It was really
Like I've been a fan for such a long time, and I'm right honored to do this. So I have sent your link to this show to many, many, many people over the years, and said you got to listen to this, and like you're the
I
top on my
appreciate it.
like link tree. Like you guys got to listen to this. So I really appreciate. No, I love you, and I appreciate all the work that you've done to help a lot of people understand what's going on with their bodies and what they're doing and how beautiful their pleasure is. And those are rare messages in this world, even more, even more now. So thanks for all the beautiful work
Mhm.
that you do.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I feel like the feelings are mutual. Like I feel like I really love the work that you do and being able to like be you in the bait space and just like know that you're like a person that I can like talk to and seek advice and like a total bait dad. So I appreciate like your friendship and relationship. It's really nice
Thanks
to
for
bring
joining
it
me.
to this space because I don't think we've ever done it. I don't think we've ever really had like a deep conversation about why we
Yeah,
do what we do. So this is nice.
good. We can share it this time. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people find more about you? Should they want to know more about you?
Yeah, my link tree is my main location, and that's
Mhm.
Alex.GentlemanSwine on Linktree. And there's some stuff about the retreats in Costa Rica on there. There's some of my coaching linked there to my SoundCloud, some of my coaching stuff, which is kind of fun, a couple articles I've written. And yeah, that's kind of my penis landing page. So
Awesome. I love it. Go check out Alex and all the amazing work that he's doing. He does so much. You can reach out. They can say hi.
yeah,
And I'll have like a link in the description box. People can just click on that. But thank you everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your
thanks
host,
guys.
BC Bader. You can follow me under that handle on all social medias, and I will chat with you in the next episode of the pod. Bye.
Bye.